Modern Marvels. Your television, the device you're glued to right now, is one of more than 1 billion sets manufactured in the last 6 decades. The average American stares at his or her TV more than 4 hours a day. That's 11 years for anyone who reaches the age of 80. You'd be hard-pressed to find an invention with a greater impact on modern society. But like many technological triumphs, the TV you know today followed in the footsteps of a flawed ancestor that flopped. In the 1920s, innovators developed a television that wasn't electronic, but mechanical. The pioneering system used no camera and no picture tube. It relied instead on lights and spinning wheels.
The concept of mechanical television was invented in the late 1800s, but at the time the equipment didn't exist to make it a reality. So a fellow named John Logie Baird built the first successful system in 1926.
The technology underlying Baird's TV bore little resemblance to the electronics common now. Modern television systems begin with a camera that converts reflected light into electronic impulses on a grid of tens of thousands of receptors called pixels. These tiny electrical measurements of light are transmitted one by one to your TV, where a tuner interprets and reassembles them using a cathode ray tube, or the more recent LCD and plasma screens. Like electronic television, mechanical television used a series of electric impulses of varying strengths. But the way they were captured and reconstructed was completely different. The mechanical television system transmitted images by passing light through tiny holes in a spinning wheel, one at a time, in rapid succession. These pinpoints of light bounced off the subject into a receptor, where they struck a photoelectric tube. The tube then converted the dots of light, which varied in intensity, into electronic signals of corresponding strength. At the receiver, these signals produced a series of rapid changes to the brightness of a light bulb. The light from this bulb passed through the holes of a disc identical to and spinning in sync with the transmitting wheel. The intermittent flashes of light reproduced the broadcast image.
This is a mechanical television set made by John Logie Baird in England. It has a disc located in the back, just like the one on the camera, that's turned by a motor. These two knobs are used to synchronize the picture to hold it still on the screen. You watch the picture through this viewing window, which has a magnifying lens, and when you look in it, you see an image about the size of a postage stamp.
The earliest sets could produce only an indistinct picture like this. In case you can't make out the image, it's a pair of hands and a deck of cards. Look again and you might detect the image of the 6 of diamonds as it's positioned in the lower right of the screen. Makeup could help performers overcome the crude system. Darkened eyes, lips, and nostrils, combined with the lighted areas on the forehead, nose, and chin, created faces that could be recognized within the simple pattern of dots.
Killed by lightning on Sunday afternoon. 2 fatalities were reported as a result of Sunday's severe thunder.
Beginning in 1928, retailers sold thousands of mechanical TVs. Viewers could watch up to 30 minutes of daily programming, broadcast from more than 30 experimental television stations in America and Great Britain. The picture improved a bit, but soon reached its modest technological peak.
Mechanical television eventually became a failed invention because it reached a dead end in terms of picture quality. It was not capable of producing decent quality pictures, and so it had really no entertainment value.
By the late 1940s, electronic television and its larger, sharper picture proved to be the system of the future. But in 1950, mechanical TV technology had one last shot at the big time. Engineers at CBS created a spinning wheel system for delivering high-quality color television, far superior to the first generation of electronic color TVs. But it had some significant and annoying drawbacks.
This is a mechanical color set from 1950. As you can hear, it's pretty noisy. It has a wheel that rotates in front of the screen with red, blue, and green filters in front of it. There's also a similar wheel at the TV camera. This set produces a nice picture, but for a 21-inch screen, it would require a 6-foot diameter wheel. Also, the set wasn't compatible with the black and white sets of the time, so all of those sets would have had to have been replaced.
And with that, mechanical television faded to black forever. Perhaps the greatest rival to television's impact on the American lifestyle is the automobile. Our love affair with cars spans a century of automotive progress, from Henry Ford's sputtering Model T to today's hybrids. We've always wanted to hit the road in style. And trying to feed that dream, free-thinking innovators have attempted to lure the public with exotic designs that fizzled. In 1933, futurist Buckminster Fuller was certain motorists couldn't resist the urge to toddle around town in this eggplant-shaped oddity. He called it the Dymaxion.
This was something that looked rather like the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, a kind of bulbous, blimp-shaped vehicle.
He had his own ideas about car building. He didn't care about marketing stats or buyer profiles or styling trends. To him, this was not a radical design in any way. It was simply a very logical car.
Fuller's Dymaxion was aerodynamic and lightweight, featuring powerful front-wheel drive and a single rear wheel for superior maneuvering. Despite such advantages, however, the public never warmed to this radical design, and only 3 Dymaxions were ever built. Fuller pulled the plug on the project in 1934. But that didn't stop other designers, who, like Fuller, believed that 3 wheels were better than 4. This unique vehicle, called the Airmobile, first turned heads in 1937. It was the brainchild of Denver businessman Paul Lewis, and aircraft builders eager to bring an aerodynamic sleekness to the American road.
Well, he was going after a streamlined look. This automobile, again, with the 3-wheel configuration, gives it the opportunity to narrow it down, a nice teardrop effect, the same as the Dymaxion.
At a very competitive price of $550, how could this conversation piece car miss?
It was a failure. They produced this automobile for prototype purposes, toured the United States with it, putting about 45,000 miles on the vehicle, not gaining enough support to issue stock and continue production, and it ended with this particular car.
In the 1960s, the Ford Motor Company was eager to show the public it was on the cutting edge of innovative design. Ford actually toyed with the notion of building a nuclear-powered engine. The Nucleon, as it was called, was to come complete with its own plutonium pod. But questions loomed about where to refuel and the potential dangers of driving a rolling nuclear reactor. And the Nucleon never made it past the 3-foot model stage. A more serious experiment was Chrysler's nearly 30-year odyssey to create a vehicle powered by a jet engine. October 1963 saw the arrival of Chrysler's new turbine-powered car. American-built engines were sheathed in a European-style body, co-designed with the Ghia Corporation's top Italian designers. The turbine had 80% fewer parts than the standard car engine. Chrysler promoted its simplicity and muscle.
Here is full power potential for instant acceleration and outstanding climbing ability. The driver is assured the same control he can get in the best conventional passenger car, even on the steepest grades.
The car's engine functioned by drawing air into the Chrysler's compressor, where temperature and air pressure were dramatically increased. The air was then forced into a burner, where it mixed with fuel, creating combustion. Heated gases then expanded through a series of turbine wheels to transform thermal energy into mechanical energy, turning the car's wheels. The turbine's power and handling were equal to anything else on the road, but its acceleration was sluggish because of its lag in engaging the transmission. But the car did have one fascinating feature. It ran on any combustible liquid: gasoline, perfume, even corn oil.
There's a whole story that at the proving grounds, they had poured scotch into the tank to see if they could make it run that way. When they were done running it, a couple of salty old mechanics in the garage were very unhappy that they wasted scotch in such a manner.
The project was finally deemed unfeasible because production costs would be too high. Another problem was developing new alloys able to withstand the turbine's high operating temperatures.
50 cars were built by Ghia of Italy in Turin. They sent these to the United States for evaluation. They were all fitted with the motor here in the United States. After 7 years, when the program was done, due to tax and customs reasons, all but 9 of the vehicles were destroyed.
Chrysler abandoned the turbine engine concept in 1981. Other automotive misfires were produced by entrepreneurs who set out to prove they could take on Detroit. One of these dreamers was Preston Tucker, a former designer for Ford. His plan was grand, some say foolhardy, to build a car company from the ground up.
Starting an automobile company from scratch in 1948 was actually a virtually impossible task because the capital required was so huge that nobody could come up with it.
Tucker's vision for his four-wheeled namesake was to make it the safest car on the road.
He designed this car, a rear-engine car. He put a lot of emphasis on safety, making a crush-proof passenger compartment and a pop-out windshield. And the idea was that in an accident, when you went forward into the windshield would pop out and you wouldn't cut yourself.
The Tucker's most memorable feature was the Triclops, a third headlight that turned with a steering wheel to continuously light the road ahead. But such innovations mattered little as Tucker began selling stock in his fledgling enterprise, and word spread that the government was investigating his business practices. Money quickly dried up. It's safe to say that more shares in Tucker's company were sold than actual Tucker automobiles. In all, only 50 were ever built.